Italy became the first country in the world to ban lab-grown meat. That fake meat. Yes, Italy. That stuff that's grown in labs from cells and petri dishes. And I'm gonna be real with you, when I saw that headline the other day, I wasn't even surprised. Now, the headline was from a couple years ago, but it's just now getting in the news everywhere today. And I'm gonna tell you exactly why. Because years ago, before I had this channel, before I had the food forest, before any of this, my wife Tony and I, we went to Italy for our honeymoon, and that trip, it changed the way that we think about food forever. So today we're going to talk about that trip. We're going to talk about what Italy did and why it matters. We're going to get into GMOs, what they actually are, what you're actually eating that you probably don't even realize is GMO. And I'm going to tell you some foods that you think that are GMO that's actually aren't. Welcome back to the Grow Fit Florida podcast. I'm Jermaine, and here, this is what we do on the podcast. We talk about growing food, not lawns. We talk about feeding our family real food from our backyard. And today's episode is going to show you exactly why that matters more than ever. Let's get into it. So let me take you back. This was years ago, before we had all the kids. Tony and I, we went to Italy for our honeymoon. We spent time in Rome and Tuscany. And I'm telling you, we ate everything. Had more wine than we ever had before also. And everything. We had pasta, all the bread we can eat, fresh mozzarella, gelato, just anything you can imagine. Constantly eating the pizza. We had multiple courses. We were not holding back. It was our honeymoon and we were enjoying ourselves. And here's what I noticed. When we came back home, we really hadn't gained much weight at all, if any. And we were walking a lot. You walk everywhere in Italy. That's just how it is. But it was more than just the walking. It was something about the food that was just different. And I didn't fully understand it at the time, but I slowly started to pick it up while we were there. See, we took cooking classes while we were in Italy.
It's back again.
Very gently because it's very sticky, you see? Turn, fold. And anytime, make a bit more pressure. Okay. Right.
And while in those cooking classes, that experience, it opened our eyes, because here's what we saw. Italian chefs, they took pride in making real incredible meals with the least amount of ingredients as possible. That was the whole philosophy in these cooking classes. You don't need 30 things to make a great dish. You need 3 or 4 ingredients and you let them work together. We made fresh pasta, and you know what was in this pasta? It was flour, eggs, salt. That's it. 3 ingredients, and it was some of the best pasta I ever had in my life. Nothing from a box in grocery stores have ever even come close to the fresh pasta we had. And it wasn't because of some fancy techniques. It was because the ingredients were simple, they were real, and they were quality. The labels, now we went around because we wanted to see. We went into some grocery stores and we wanted to see what the labels looked like there. It got real interesting. While we were there, we started to notice, just out of curiosity, the common stuff like olive oil, breads, tomato sauces, just the basics. We noticed on most of those labels, it was just 2 or 3 ingredients on most of the labels. Even the snack foods there didn't have the same amount of ingredients that ours had. And we were checking this. This was years ago, before everyone was flipping over packages in grocery stores, before even the ultra ingredient conscious people like myself was searching for things like this. Like YouTube was around, but it wasn't that big. People weren't on YouTube putting these companies on blast, which I'm thankful they are now. This was before all that. We were searching and we were checking these labels while we were in Italy, and we were noticing a huge difference. And out of all the beautiful scenery that we seen in Italy and all the beautiful churches, and I got to go to the Colosseum, which was wonderful. It was an experience for me. Even all the amazing food, what stuck with me the most is noticing how they treated foods completely different than we did. How as a country, they weren't settling for giving their countrymen and women crap in their food. It wasn't that. They didn't have that. All the food was 2, 3 ingredients. It was fresh food if it wasn't, they didn't sell it to people. And I remember coming back home and immediately going in the grocery stores, and I'm like, this is crazy. I went to just a little rinky-dink, what looked like to me a little rinky-dink grocery store in Italy that was as big as my living room. It was like a bodega, just a little store, and the food was so healthy and so fresh. But we here have to go somewhere like Whole Foods just to get something that's somewhat similar. We can't even go to our local down the street grocery stores and receive the same quality that they get from just these little, bodegas just everywhere around Italy. It just didn't make sense to me. So I started to research more, and that's what led me into a lot of what I'm doing now. So let's fast forward to now. Italy just became the first country on the planet to completely ban lab-grown meat. Honestly, it makes perfect sense knowing what I know about how they approach food. So in 2023, Italy passed a law banning the production and sale of cultivated meat, lab-grown meat, whatever you want to call it. They also banned synthetic fish and synthetic milk. If you get caught making or selling it in Italy, you're looking up for fines up to 60,000 euros. So they're not playing around with this. They don't want none of that in their country, and they're making it so with these fees. Now, this was backed by their prime minister and their agricultural minister. They said that they were protecting Italian food culture, protecting their farmers, and protecting the health of their people. And I totally respect that. I wish we had that here. Now, let's talk about the Bill Gates connection. Now, you really can't talk about lab-grown meat without talking about Bill Gates. And that's sad, because now he's not even known for everything at Microsoft. He's known more for the lab-grown meat, I'm not going to even get into it. But we all know what Bill Gates is known more for now than all the accomplishments that he had with Microsoft. And it's crazy, but in 2021, Bill Gates went on record saying, and I'm paraphrasing now, that he believes all rich countries should move to 100% synthetic beef. He said that. He invested millions in these lab-grown meat companies like Upside Foods and others. He's one of the biggest backers of this whole entire synthetic meat movement. Now, the viral headlines like to say Italy banned Bill Gates' fake meat. This is why I'm bringing this up, because it was publicized the other day and it caught my attention. I read it. And to be fair, the ban wasn't specifically about him. It wasn't laws written with his name on it, but his money is all over these companies, these synthetic beef and whatever companies. He's been the loudest one pushing this shift. So the connection might be there indirectly, even if it's not as direct as some people make it sound in the media. But here's my thing. I don't need a billionaire telling me what I should or should not be eating, especially one who's investing in companies that he would profit from. That's a conflict of interest, and it's plain and simple. Meanwhile, here in the United States, we went the complete opposite way of Italy. Our FDA and USDA has been approving these products, these lab-grown chickens. They're getting approved. They're moving forward with it. The grown fish, they're moving forward with that. And the average person has no idea that this is even happening. Italy said we're not eating fake food. And I think that deserves our attention, because here in the US, I mean, they're giving it to us. They're saying, okay, Americans can eat it. So before we go any further, I have two books that I want to tell you about. The first one is Grow Foods, Not Lawns. This book is specifically dedicated to everyone who wants to start growing food, who might not have the motivation and the correct information that they need. I wrote this book to help you, to motivate you to just pick a Saturday and go outside and put some seeds down. It's a lot jam-packed in this book. This is the revised edition that's out now. You can pick it up on my website, growfitflorida.com, or anywhere where you get your books. And the next book I want to talk about is the Florida Perennial Garden. You guys know I love perennials. I think that if you live anywhere that's a southern state or anywhere that's warm, perennials needs to be the top of your list of what you need to grow. I wrote this book with the Florida gardener specifically in mind, with some of our best perennials that we can grow, how to grow them, when to get them in the ground, and I have full pictures and illustrations of my very own backyard so you can see them and see the spots that I have them in our yard. So this book, if you enjoy perennials and if you want easy gardening where you don't have to do as much work, pick up a copy of the Florida Perennial Garden. It's on my website and anywhere you get your books. So let's get back to the episode. So what are GMOs? All right, let's talk about it, because this ties directly into everything we're talking about. GMO stands for genetically modified organism, and what that means is scientists take a plant or animal and they alter the DNA in a laboratory in a way that would never happen naturally. They're taking genes from one species and forcing them into a completely different species. Bacteria into corn, viruses into crops, things that nature never intended. Now, this is different from what farmers and gardeners have been doing for thousands of years. Traditional crossbreeding, selection of the best traits from hybridizing, that's been happening since the beginning of agriculture. That's natural. GMOs are not natural. GMOs are lab processed, and that's the important distinction. Now, here's what a lot of people don't even realize. In the United States right now, over 90% of all corn planted is genetically modified. 96% of all soybeans are genetically modified. 93% of cotton, 95% of canola, and nearly 100% of sugar beets. These aren't small numbers. That's almost everything. And most of these crops, they aren't being sold to you as like on the cob or whole soybeans. They're being processed into ingredients that end up in just about everything. Corn syrup, cornstarch, corn oil, soybean oil, canola oil, granulated sugar. If you're eating processed foods in America, you're almost certainly eating GMOs. Some of the estimates say up to 80% of processed foods in grocery store shelves contain genetically modified ingredients. And here's where it gets real interesting. There are foods people think they're making healthy choices. They have no idea that they're loaded with GMO derived ingredients. Yogurt, that dairy cow might not be genetically engineered, but its feed almost certainly is. And if it's made with any like soy, corn-based additives, those are definitely GMO. Whole wheat bread, that sounds healthy, but look at those ingredients first. High fructose corn syrup, soybean oil, soy flour, that's all GMO. Even protein shakes, most use soy or they have whey, and unless it says organic, it's probably GMO. Salad dressing, canola oil, soybean oil, corn syrup, GMO. Diet sodas and anything sugar-free with aspartame. Aspartame is literally made from genetically engineered bacteria, in case you didn't know. Even your meat, eggs, and dairy are affected because the animals are eating GMO corn, GMO soy, GMO alfalfa. So even if you're avoiding it and you're not buying organic, still in the supply chain, it's still being fed to the livestock. Now, there's some things that people think are GMO that actually aren't. Seedless grapes, that's non-GMO. That's a natural mutation that's been around for hundreds of years. Seedless watermelons, that's not GMO, that's crossbreeding. And when you see that modified cornstarch label or that word modified, it means physically processed, not genetically modified. So don't let that confuse you also, because they're trying to confuse you. So here's my take on all of this and where I stand, because let me keep it real with you guys, because that's what we do here. I'm not a fan of GMOs. I'm not going to sit here and I'm going to tell you that is equal on both sides and that some GMOs are okay. I'm not a fan. I've done my research. I've been growing food for too many years. I can taste the difference, and you can too. I'm not a vegan, so I do buy proteins. We choose grass-fed and grass-finished, and we try to buy the best proteins that we can afford. It's expensive, and we get it. We also try to buy from local farms, and I believe that real food is grown in soil the way that God intended, the way our bodies are designed to eat, not engineered in a lab, in a petri dish. Now, when Tony and I was in Italy on our honeymoon, nobody had to check to see if the tomatoes was genetically modified. Nobody wondered, was the olive oil GMO? The food was simple, it was clean, it was real. And that's what I'm trying to build here in our backyard. I remember in 2010 hearing about Haiti and how they were given some corn seed from Monsanto, lots of it. The poorest country in the world, or one of the poorest countries economically in the world, was given all these seeds, and that country told them to take these seeds away. We don't want it. We don't want that GMO engineered seeds. That says a lot if one of the poorest economic countries in the world don't want the same seeds that our fields are growing. You got football fields of these 100 football fields in a row growing these GMO seeds, but the poorest country in the world say we don't want this. Have you ever had Haitian food before? Speaking of that, some of the best food in the world. My wife is Haitian, so yes, my wife and my mother-in-law, they cook some of the most delicious meals. And when your food becomes experience or culture, a Haitian dish is going to take 15 healthy ingredients. I'm not talking about GMO ingredients. I'm talking about 15 different ingredients just for a simple dish. And it is some of the best food that you will ever have. So I can understand why the country of Haiti, who the food is so delicious, why would you even want to have GMO in your country? The people there, they might not have the money economically like most of us have here, but they have much better health, and that food is banging. So again, so when the food is culture and an experience like Haitian cooking is, why would they want to muck it up with GMO? They made a smart decision. Now, I have over 120 or so different edible plants growing in our backyard. We got 2 blue zone style gardens. We got moringa growing, Barbados cherries, starfruit, cassava, mangoes, loquats, avocados. None of that needs a lab to grow. None of that involved a scientist coming to our yard and placing it in the ground. We put the work in, we put it in the ground. We're letting soil, water, and God take care of it. And that's the message. You don't have to move to Italy to eat like they do. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to have a huge yard. You just have to start. One fruit tree, one raised bed, one herb garden, and the information and knowledge to choose wiser when you're shopping in grocery stores. That's the first step towards food you can actually trust. Now, individually, we can't do much about GMOs being served to us, but together as a nation, we can start choosing not to buy GMO and selecting healthier options. Money talks, and when we spend our money in different places, it shows these corporations we prefer real food, not food made in a lab. And look, I get it. Gas is over $4 now. Food prices are high. It costs so much just to live on this planet. It's cheaper just to cut corners, because if you ain't got it, you ain't got it. And I do understand that. So this is where starting with just a few seeds in your backyard over time can turn into a full-blown garden. And just maybe for 6 months out the year, you no longer have to buy that GMO produce from the grocery store. You slowly learn how to store it better, grow more, and in a few years after that, you're feeding yourself and your family from your backyard all year. And that's one less GMO-filled food that you have to worry about. And it saves you money to go to the grocery store, and now you could buy better options for your proteins. So Italy started it off. They drew the line in the sand. They said, no, we don't want that fake food. I think it's time we start drawing our own lines in the sand right here at home. And for me, that starts with my backyard. That's growing food and not lawns. If this episode, if it meant something to you, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe. If you haven't already, share this with somebody who needs to hear it, and leave me a comment. You guys know I read and I try to respond to everyone. If you want to go deeper, check out my books at growfitflorida.com. The links are in the description below. And come join us on Patreon if you want to be a part of that inner circle where we go a little bit deeper with some of our conversations and some of our videos. It's a real community there. Come join us. And I'm Jermaine. This is the Grow Fit Florida podcast. We grow food, not lawns. And I'll see you in the next one. God bless.